Tonight, we're diving into the kinds of police calls that just can't be explained. These aren't your everyday calls. These are the ones that defy all logic and stick with an officer long, long after their shift is over.
This right here, this comes from a patrol officer with over 8 years on the job, and it really sets the stage perfectly. I mean, think about it. Most nights are the same old thing: domestic disputes, fender benders, stuff like that. But what we're about to get into, these are the rare, chilling calls that an officer never, ever forgets.
So, our first case involves a veteran canine handler and his partner, a German Shepherd named Rex. They got called out to help search a house for a fugitive who'd just taken off after a foot chase. It seemed like a totally routine sweep at first, but it would end up being the most unexplainable call of this handler's entire career.
Now, the key to this whole story is the dog, Rex. His handler describes him as just absolutely solid. This dog is trained for the most high-stress situations you can imagine, tracking armed suspects, searching pitch-black buildings. The point is, he doesn't spook. That's a really crucial detail to keep in mind as this thing unfolds.
Okay, so after they clear the first floor, the handler and Rex start moving upstairs. The whole house is dead silent. Then, all of a sudden, Rex just freezes. He starts growling and barking down the hallway. And that's when the handler looks up and sees it. A tall, dark figure just standing there perfectly still. He knew right away it wasn't another officer. So, the handler does what he's trained to do. He calls out, "Police department," but gets nothing back. The figure is completely motionless, totally silent. He tries again. "Who is that?" Still, just absolute silence. And then the figure just turns and walks into the last bedroom at the end of the hall. And this right here is the heart of the mystery. The handler, he's doing his job. He draws his weapon, moves forward to go after the suspect. But Rex, the dog that never spooks, he plants his feet, he starts pulling backwards, flat out refusing to go down that hallway. A canine's instinct is an incredible tool, and for Rex to so completely defy his handler, well, his training was basically screaming that something was fundamentally, deeply wrong here. So when the handler finally gets down to the bedroom with his backup just arriving, they find it completely empty. And I mean completely. The window is shut and locked, the closet is empty, there are no trapdoors, no attic hatches, nothing. There was no one there. The suspect, or whatever it was, had just vanished from inside a sealed room. In the end, the handler says he trusts his dog more than his own instincts. While his training told him to chase a suspect, Rex's gut reaction told a whole different story. The officer still has no idea what he saw that night, but he knows what his dog felt, and that was more than enough to make it his one truly unforgettable call. Okay, so this second case, it also kicks off with an unexplainable call, but the mystery starts before the police even get there. It begins in the middle of a massive thunderstorm that's knocked out power to the whole town. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, and a 911 dispatcher gets a call that sets off a truly horrifying chain of events.
The call comes in from a man who claims he's been kidnapped and is being held captive. But the dispatcher, a woman named Claire, she picks up on something that's just deeply unsettling. She notes that the caller sounds like he's trying to alter his voice, making himself sound, in her words, like a young girl. She immediately warns the responding officers to be extremely careful. When the officers arrive at the address, the house itself immediately sets off all kinds of alarm bells. The outside is completely neglected, and inside, it's even worse. The responding officer described it as just absolutely disgusting. Filth everywhere, dirty dishes stacked to the ceiling, cockroaches crawling all over. It's the kind of scene he's seen before, usually in drug cases. But it's what they find in one of the bedrooms that is just truly disturbing. In the middle of all this chaos and filth, the officers find a room filled with children's toys. But in the corner, there's a life-size doll dressed in women's clothing. And on the bed, neatly folded piles of lingerie, all organized by color. This bizarre, meticulous order in the middle of total chaos just screams that something is deeply, deeply wrong. The homeowner is insisting he's alone the whole time, getting more and more agitated as the officer makes his way toward the basement door. As the officer shines his flashlight into the pitch-black space, he hears it, a rattling sound coming from deep inside the darkness. He knows right then, the homeowner is lying. Someone is down there. When the officer finally gets a locked door in the basement open, he makes a discovery that is just shocking. He finds a man who had been held captive for 2 years. This guy was a respected father of 3 who had just
vanished. His family, his community, everyone had assumed he was dead. The victim was rescued and the homeowner was arrested. But the officer who responded is still haunted by that first detail from the 911 call. Why? Why did the man speak like a child? He can only guess that the victim was forced to speak that way for so long that it became the only way he knew how to communicate. And if he was forced to do that, what else was he forced to do in that house? All right, this last story, it's probably the most visceral. It involves a lone officer responding to a 911 hang-up. That's when someone calls 911, but the line goes dead, so police have to go check it out. A neighbor had called it in, saying she heard a woman screaming for help next door, but by the time she called, the screaming had stopped. So just picture the situation, right? You've got a report of screams, you find the front door cracked open, and you know your closest backup is a full 10 minutes away. Policy might say you should wait, but when you think a life is in immediate danger, waiting just isn't an option. He decides he's going in alone. He clears the first floor, and everything seems almost eerily normal. He starts moving upstairs, and he can hear these faint shuffling sounds. As he gets closer to the bathroom at the end of the hall, he spots a small, dark spot on the carpet, and he realizes it's wet. He touches it with his glove, and his worst fear is confirmed. It's blood. Not a lot, but enough. His heart just starts pounding. He gets on the radio, tells dispatch to get back up there now. He is officially in a house with fresh blood and no victim and no suspect in sight. The officer finds more blood in the bathroom. Then he hears a floorboard creak downstairs. In the basement, he discovers a metal chair with cut zip ties and a large pool of blood right next to it. He spots a figure who takes off and escapes through a basement window. The homeowner, whose blood it turned out to be, was never found. And the screaming woman the neighbor heard, she was never identified. The case is still completely unresolved. So what do these three cases really tell us? Well, they tell us that some things just can't be explained. They tell us that even in the most normal-looking places, some extraordinary evil can be hiding. And they tell us that for some police officers, there are calls that never, ever leave them. Like that first officer said, pretty much everyone in his department has at least one story like this. It's a really stark reminder that behind the badge and the uniform are just people. People who are sometimes confronted with things that have no logical answer and that they have to carry with them for the rest of their lives. The officer from that last case, I think he put it best. He still drives down that same street on his patrol, where a new family lives now. He sees kids' bikes in the driveway, and it just reminds him that these horrible things don't just happen in some far-off, scary place. They happen on quiet streets, in normal neighborhoods, just like yours. It's a chilling thought, isn't it? The people you pass every day, the houses you walk by. What's really going on behind those closed doors after the sun goes down? What secrets does your street hold?